it's a utility application, very commodity based when you think about it from the fact of a title or a deed, transferring ownership, but it gives power to the people that own the asset because you don't have to go through these gatekeepers and intermediaries anymore.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Struggle to Strength podcast, your source for real life application on how to turn your struggles into strengths in all things mind, muscle, and money.
Dude, that was cool.
Yeah. Anthony's the man.
Anthony is the man. Anthony is the man who made NFTs not so complicated.
Yeah.
This was a really great episode, and it all stemmed from the core question that Travis and I had about NFTs, which is, what the fuck even is it?
What even is it?
So Anthony came on, Anthony Mongiello, who he is one of the founders of the Bulls and Apes Project and is very well versed in NFTs, what they are, how they started, how they can be utilized, makes it really simple. He has some great analogies that made it really simple to understand how you can use them and how they benefit both the consumer and the business. So this was a great episode. I took a ton of notes. I don't know about you, Travis. I took a ton of notes. And I have a lot of ideas on how I might use them in my own business and just in my life. So highly recommend y'all grab a notepad or keep your notes app on your phone open for this one. Anthony is going to make things really simple. We'll see y'all inside. How did you learn so much about NFTs? Like, how did you get to where you are today that you know so much about them?
Yeah, sure. So first, to take a step back, I've got a 20 plus year corporate career. So very traditional insurance industry, commercial property casualty insurance, running global teams, working for big organizations like AXA and Excel, working in Hartford, Connecticut, insurance capital of the US. And so very, very conservative, boring industry. And as I was in a decent role, always did strategy, technology, delivery, change management, transformation. And I started hearing about NFTs. Well, first, before that, I was hearing about crypto, and it just wasn't for me. I just didn't get involved. I was like, okay, sure, digital currency sounds interesting. Wake me up when it's real, right? and then I started hearing Mark Cuban and Gary Vee talking about NFTs, and I respect both of them from a business perspective. And so I was like, well, let me take a look at it. And I remember hearing Gary talking about this one NFT called CryptoPunks. And I was like, oh, you know what? Sounds interesting. Let me go buy a few. And so I opened up my laptop, I got my credit card out, and I hop onto the website. And number one, it tells me I got to buy crypto, which I had no idea you needed to buy crypto. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I look at the price tag and they were like $30,000 each. And I'm like, all right, yeah, close the laptop. I'm like, okay, not for me. But then they kept talking about it and talking about some of the practical use cases. And it started getting me thinking through this new wave of technology. And I saw Web 1, I saw Web 2, and I wanted to get out ahead of Web 3. So I was like, okay, even if I'm not comfortable with it, let me just throw myself into it. Let me try it out. Let me force myself to be an early adopter and just get out of that comfort zone. And I did. And so I bought some NFTs, smaller price tag, a lot smaller price tag than a $30,000 one. But I got involved. And then when I got involved, I saw something special happening. And I saw this community aspect to the NFTs that felt like real social to me. Forget Instagram posting your photos and people liking and commenting, all that. There was a lot of real engagement, real interaction, real creativity and collaboration coming together in this space. And then I just started diving in a lot more and volunteering my time while I was working full time in the corporate world, and just saying, hey, I'll work nights and weekends. Here's my experience. I'll help you guys out. And then what I saw then was that it was very similar to the .com days, late 90s, a lot of really bright individuals coming up with bright ideas, but very, very little business sense on how to actually build a business. And that's when I met the other two co-founders, Manny and Guy, and the three of us said, hey, do we think that we can do a decent job and make an impact in the space? And so that's how I got to founding the Bulls and Apes Project.
What's a good definition for the difference between Web 1, 2, and 3? Because that's another thing I hear a lot where I'm
That's a
like,
good question.
Yeah, I get it, but I actually don't really know what that means.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of hate those terms too, Web 1, 2, and 3, because it doesn't really capture it assumes that everybody knows. So forgive me for using it, right? So Web 1 to me was around internet websites, e-commerce. So think eBay, think Amazon.
Okay.
And then Web 2 was about cloud computing, social media, and apps, iPhone apps. And what a lot of people, that's the core technology piece. What a lot of people don't realize is what enabled apps to happen is the fact that you had cloud computing in the background, right? The same thing, what enabled websites to happen is that you had the internet in the background, like that was the backbone. So when you get to Web 3, the backbone to Web 3 is a technology called blockchain. And what's happening with blockchain is a public ledger. So it's no different than any other ledger where you've got who owns what, and you're keeping track of where that asset is and debits and credits. So very, very basic, at a basic level, it's a public ledger. And what that means is that you're removing intermediaries and gatekeepers from the transaction, a peer-to-peer transaction. And I'll give you a real life use case. Let's imagine that your title for your car was managed on a blockchain. If that was the case, you wouldn't have to go to DMV to transfer ownership. You wouldn't have to go to an intermediary because DMV is the one who keeps the register, right? DMV keeps its own ledger. It's the DMV registry. That's why you got to register your car with the DMV. If that car was an NFT that was stored on a blockchain, that title, I would be able to just transact with you directly. It would move from my digital wallet to your digital wallet. That's the essence of the blockchain.
That's probably a great example, because in that example, it's like everybody knows how much going to the DMV sucks. And it takes an entire day of something that you could be doing else, and it's just not fun at all. So you're cutting that out. And then take that example and think about that applied to kind of everything else, every other different way. There's a DMV of every situation that maybe you don't even know that this could be more convenient because you don't even know about it, but it's going on.
You think about every commercial transaction that occurs goes through some kind of intermediary at the moment, right? You're going through a bank, you're going through a credit card company, you're going through Venmo, you're going through PayPal.
Yeah. And it's like the Venmo, and then Venmo is cool, but then they're like, actually, now we're going to start charging fees, and it's like not cool anymore. And yeah,
exactly. And so the blockchain technology is decentralizing that commercial transaction so that you can interact directly with somebody to make a transaction. One of the things that when we talk about NFTs, so an NFT is a non-fungible token. I know that there's a lot of talk about art and funky monkey pictures and bull pictures and all this stuff, but at its core, an NFT is an alphanumeric string that is stored on blockchain. And then next to that string is my string of my digital wallet, and it says that I own that asset. And that asset, all it is an alphanumeric string. Now, when you think about these pictures and the things that are going on with NFTs, you can supplement that string with additional data. The data could be an image. It could be a number of other things that you can imagine. If you had a VIN number on your car.
Right, like a car.
You've got a VIN number, and then it's got the model, it's got the make, it's got the year, it's got all this additional information.
Or a house. You could do real estate potentially through
absolutely. And so that's what an NFT is. It's that VIN number. It's that token ID that's stored on a blockchain. And then there's additional data that's attached to it. But the other thing that is special with NFTs is there's a technology, there's smart contract technology. And what this means is it's just a computer program. It's just it's a set of code. But what it says is when there's a transaction on this asset, here's the logic that you follow. And so now you can imagine, you mentioned a house. There's all these closing costs associated because you got to have lawyers come in and legal and take a look at the transactions, sign off on it, all these papers. If the deed of your house was a token, the smart contract was the contract that says, here's how it's going to be executed when there's a transaction. You don't need anybody interpreting that. There's no need for a lawyer in that situation. It's already built into the asset.
Interesting.
It's automated.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So you can essentially save on all of those costs as well.
Yep.
Which is part of what makes this so attractive. Like, we don't need anybody else. You and I can just do this transaction.
Exactly. And this is the power of Web3. It's the blockchain technology that's behind it. So think past funky pictures, think past crazy prices on these NFTs that are out there. But at its core, it's a utility. It's a utility application, very commodity based when you think about it from the fact of a title or a deed, transferring ownership. But it gives power to the people that own the asset, because you don't have to go through these gatekeepers and intermediaries anymore. And so that's, I look at Web 1 to me is, you gave the mom and pops, the main street shops, a chance to fight with the big boys, right? And Gary Vee's a good example. Look, his dad's wine store went from a local wine shop to a massive wine business because of the internet, because of the websites.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have had that opportunity if it wasn't for the web. Web 2, I feel like consolidated again, right? Because now you have Twitter owns all of the power. Facebook has all of the power. You're able to socially, interact with people, and that's where influencers came in. So the attention was decentralized, but it was through a central party. In my mind now, with the blockchain technology and the commercial aspect of it being decentralized, it's given power to the individual, and it gives the individual power over their asset. I'll take it a step further. You think about digital identity. Today, we've got a Twitter profile or a LinkedIn profile. We think we own it because it has our picture on it, but we're really only using it within I can't take it out of Twitter. Like, if I build a business in Twitter or in LinkedIn, I can't take that business and bring it somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. You have to switch that to something that you do own.
That's right.
Like, even like an email list is more owned than your Twitter profile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If Twitter shuts you off or Twitter goes away, you're screwed. Yeah.
Screwed. And so with the blockchain technology, there's a lot of talk about decentralizing your digital identity so that you could own it. And so this is where these profile picture NFTs are coming into play, because people are saying, okay, this is my digital identity. I own it on the blockchain. I could take it wherever I want. I don't have to use it within a particular platform. It goes across all platforms. And so now you're seeing things like Twitter. Twitter is validating whether you own that NFT that you're using as your profile picture. Instagram is going to start doing the same. And so now you can have a thread that goes across your social accounts by owning that NFT that's identified as you.
So, okay, cool. So an NFT can pretty much be anything. It's not just the monkey pictures. It could literally be the deed to your house to your profile picture on Instagram. So I guess I have two questions. One, if I wanted to turn my profile picture into an NFT, what's the process for that? And then another question I have is, like, what makes them so expensive?
Yeah. Okay. So those are two different questions, but so we have an NFT project, right? So we've launched NFTs, and we've done that ourselves. We have a pretty large organization. We have a big tech team. And so we have the skills and the know-how on how to do that. Now, for the average person, there are launch pads that are there. So the primary secondary marketplace is called OpenSea, and OpenSea is like eBay for NFTs. And they have a launch pad there where you could upload an image, and they'll help you through their process mint it on the blockchain, which means minting it means that's the first time that token ID is going to appear on the blockchain. So it's the first transaction. It's called a mint process. So the first time that token ID appears on the blockchain, it's minted, and you'll associate an image with that token ID. Now that image is on the blockchain, and anybody who is reading the blockchain can have access to it and can validate that you actually own it. As I mentioned, Twitter has that integration. It has the blockchain integration. And provides a verification process to make sure that you are the one that actually owns that image.
Okay.
So now on the other side, what makes it so expensive some of these. And this is part of the immaturity of the market at the moment. It's, again, very similar to the .com days when you're looking at some of these websites and you're like, where's this valuation coming from? Like, why is this IPOing and it's $150 a share? It doesn't make sense. Where's the revenue? And it wasn't there. The same thing's happening in the NFT space, and it's calming down a little bit now, but it's very, very speculative. And so there's people speculating that this is going to be the next big thing. And so people are jumping in with a lot of money. But the other aspect of it is there's a very heavy focus on digital collectibles right now. Mm-hmm. And there's rarity associated with collections. Like our collection is the bulls. We have 10,000 bulls. Some of those bulls have gold skin, and the gold skin ones are super rare compared to the brown fur bulls. Mm-hmm. And so people are they want the gold skin versus the brown fur. So it becomes very similar to Pokemon, where you've got a collection of cards, but man, that Charizard, everybody's going for that, and it's worth a ton of money because it's hologram or it's whatever else. So there's a lot of NFT collections, including ours, takes a digital collectible approach to the collection.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see like the future of NFTs? Like, do you see artwork and collectibles actually being the future, or something more like process oriented? That is like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say you were to fast forward like 20 years from now. Do you think that the collectible thing, that's what everybody has heard of when it comes to NFTs? Like, do you think that is still going to be something big, or is it going to be more like, we're using this process to sell tickets and sell cars and sell homes, and like, what do you think, I guess?
I think the technology that we call today, that we call NFTs, I don't even think you'll say the word NFT. I think you'll just say, oh, I got my ticket to the Yankee game, or I've got my loyalty card to this, to Starbucks, or I've got my loyalty card to this group of restaurants. I've got my title to my car. I've got my deed to my house. You're not going to say, oh, it's an NFT title, or it's an NFT deed, or it's an NFT loyalty card. You're just going to call it a loyalty card because that's the technology that everybody's just using. And so I definitely firmly believe 20 years from now that there'll be digital collectibles. Absolutely. Just like there's trading card games today and there's collectibles in the real world. You think about the amount of money people pay for watches and for cars, people who collect cars. They're not really driving those cars all the time, right? They're looking at them in their 20-car garage, or they're looking at their watches collected. Who's to say that they're not going to be collecting digital items at some point in the future? And man, those are a lot easier to store and a lot safer easier to transport, easier to buy and sell. So I do believe that digital collectibles will be part of the puzzle. But I think they'll be a small part of the puzzle. The bigger piece is exactly the process-oriented things that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, does that rely on continued decentralization of the financial industry then?
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be the big, and remember, I come from the insurance side, right? And we've been talking about blockchain technology for about 10 years now. And so there'll be industries that are slow to move, like insurance, where maybe 20 years isn't enough. But there'll be other industries that move pretty quickly. Look, the two things that pay out, convenience and cost, right? So if a technology provides more convenience and lower cost, it's gonna win out over time. Now, the caveat to that is that the technology's new. We're very much in the dial-up phase of the blockchain technology. When we talk about how easy it is to transact, and it is, I pay some of our contractors in crypto, and man, they get it automatically. You don't have to wait for the bank to clear it. And my crypto contractors, they get their money right away. My USD contractors, they gotta wait, a couple of days until it processes. But the crypto transactions, there's a fee called a gas fee associated with every crypto transaction. And today that could be $9, it could be $10, it could be $20 to execute a transaction, depending on how congested the network is. You'll be paying a gas fee, and that feels a lot like dial-up where I do believe that as the technology gets more advanced, that cost has to get down to cents, pennies, for people to really, really catch on. Because otherwise, you're not gonna buy coffee on blockchain if it's going to cost you $3, $4 to do the transaction.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and also it needs to get like more user friendly, because like people that like the internet, or any people who aren't like super intuitively educated about like computer stuff, like when you go online and try to use crypto or NFT type sites, it's like very overwhelming and confusing, versus hopping on your Amazon app on your phone and just pressing buy and it shows up at your house in 2 days.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think what I'm kind of hearing and what makes sense to me is like the Web3 type of explanation, I think makes the most sense, because yeah, great. Amazon is like insane now. But if you were to go look at the internet when it first came out, when there was dial up, it was like, how the hell do you use this thing? And 99% of those websites don't exist anymore. Like what you were using it for at first is like doesn't exist. Like, they're all gone except for like a couple. So
yeah, and you mentioned Amazon. Amazon just announced that they're going to be launching their own NFT marketplace in April.
Wow.
So that was just announced, which was pretty massive. And what they're doing is they're going to have an interface that is a buffer to all of the Web3 technology. So you'll be able to use their cart, you'll be able to use the credit card. It'll automate a lot of the Web3 setup in the background to help with people getting over the obstacles, the technology obstacles. So already you're looking at a pretty big player that's jumping in, and we know they know how to deal with consumers and make it easy for consumers.
Yeah.
Do you see, are you worried about like the future with, I think most people probably don't understand like what all of this stuff. And if you don't understand it, then you're more inclined to be in that camp of like, you see these like crazy high, you just see people like losing money, seemingly on these like high level collectibles. And then they think like, oh, this is a scam, or it had its time and it's dead, or we just like don't trust it anymore. Do you see like an issue there? Or do you think it'll kind of just be like people will start using them without even realizing? Because like the technology is still getting developed in the background. And it's like kind of what you said, like you probably won't even call it an NFT in a few years.
You won't. So I think there's a couple of phases to this. I think we went through a phase of holy crap, what's going on there? Why is everybody making all this money and everybody jumping in? And I'm glad that it's actually gone down a lot, the noise, because we're building a real business, and that kind of noise isn't good for real business people because you're drowned out by all of the hype. So the bear market that we've been in since last spring has actually helped us establish ourselves as real players in the space. And so we now are pretty well recognized within the NFT space as real business people who are delivering and building a real business. And so that phase hopefully is behind us. There's going to be another phase that comes in where the people that got scared off because of the hype and then the big drop and all the scams, I think there are some people who are genuinely curious and are usually the ones that like to get the new technology first. I think they're going to come back in, hopefully with brands like ours that have a reputation, who are reputable, that have real business experience that we're bringing to the table. And then I think that you'll see different industries join on. Gaming, as an example, I think that gaming is ripe for this technology. You think about the amount of money. I know I have 3 daughters, 15, 11, and 9. The amount of money that I spend on Roblox, and that all the time and all the building that they've done, it stays within Roblox. Now imagine if those were all NFTs and they could, when they're done, they grow out of the game, it could get sold to somebody else. So I could get some of my money back. And all of that effort that was put in. So I think that gaming, will come around and we'll start using the NFT technology. Sporting industry with tickets, it just makes sense that a ticket is an NFT. I still have a lot of my tickets from some of the Yankee games that I've gone to. It would be pretty cool if that was an NFT and I could store it in my digital wallet. So I think you'll
rather than your bedside table.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think you'll have slices of industry like that before it gets to the point where people are just using NFTs and not even thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah. That was something that I've been thinking about. I operate a coaching business. Travis has his media company, and we've been talking like, how can we incorporate NFTs into our businesses, into everyday businesses? Do we upload training programs as NFTs and sell them that way? Do we put our contracts into a token and utilize that? So do you see this being used across the board in all industries, or what are some ways that we can help move that along, or we can take advantage of it ourselves?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at where can you, like, you got to ask the question, why an NFT, right? Mm-hmm. Why, and where are you trying to manage ownership of an asset? And use the word asset, and I'll explain what I mean by it in a minute. But where are you looking to manage ownership? And can you do that more effectively by delivering more value to your audience, to your community, by using that technology? And one of the ways that I look at it is, you think about being a member of a pool club, or a member of a tennis club, or a member of a country club. You pay for that. You pay for that membership, but when you're done and you don't want to use it anymore, you just give it up. And there's a waiting list, and people, it's just next in line. Imagine if that slot, that membership slot, was an NFT, and you own that slot. Yeah, of course, you paid your dues each year, but you owned your slot, your membership. What if you could sell that spot to the community? So it's a way for you to kind of gate the community, make sure that the person who owns it has access to it, but you're also giving them something valuable in turn by, they actually own their spot in that community. And that's kind of how we're approaching it right now, where, we've got our community is called the Inner Circle. And one of the things that we do for our community is we've got deep ties in the VC world. And so we bring VC deal flow to the community. Our community was able to invest in SpaceX recently. So we've done 21 deals so far that our community was able to get access to because they own one of our NFTs. Now, someone else might say that's appealing, and they could go and buy one of our bulls and then therefore have access to the VC deal flow that we have. So we look at it as kind of a virtual country club. And for us, it's, we want to provide different ways for people to have investment opportunities to build wealth, to retain wealth. And that's one of the things that we do for our community. So it's more than just the profile picture, the picture of the bull, and the digital collectible aspect of it. We've got a community that we've developed that is centered around building wealth, retaining wealth.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I'm thinking of ways that I can incorporate that into my business model as well. The country club, the analogies that you've given during this conversation have been really helpful. Okay. The country club, the deed to the house. I feel like I definitely have a much better understanding of NFTs at this point. And it's cool to hear that it's just going to be the way the world works in another 10, 15, 20 years. We won't even consider this, but the fact that companies like Amazon are going to make it a little bit easier for the majority of people to be able to do it, that's what really gives me hope that this is going to catch on. Because there's a lot of people who are like us and are like, dude, I don't even know what it is. Like, I don't want to spend $30,000 on something I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
So it's really good to hear that some of these bigger organizations are going to be helpful in that. Trav, did you have any other questions?
No, yeah, I think this is a good kind of basic explanation, and
for sure
got some good knowledge of kind of where it's headed. Yeah, I think kind of like the crazy, like, blow up overnight flashy object stuff. It's easy to see something like that and be like, that's a scam, but it's like, it kind of always is, like, nothing like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could get, whether it's this or anything, it's like that really, like, I just made $50 million in one day type of thing. It's like, it's gambling in a certain sense. Like, I wouldn't really bank on that as like a plan for your life, but it's like, what's like the actual, like, day-to-day use that's going on in the background that you're maybe not even learning about, is what I really wanted to, like, touch on.
Yeah, exactly. And we've education is a big part of what we do too. We started the Bulls and Apes Project because we thought we can make a difference, in an early young space. And part of that is by not only building, a solid project, a solid company, but also doing something that can help others come on. So we've developed a couple of courses as well. So they're on our website. We've got an NFT 101 course. We've got an NFT security course. We've got 2 more courses coming out. And all of them they're about 30 minutes, bite-sized modules. So 10 to 12, 2 to 3 minute modules. So easy to consume. They're free. And so anybody that wants to hop on, bullsandapes.com, our education materials there. Certainly offer that up for anybody who's wants to take it a step further and learn a little bit more.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to do that, because this was, like you said, education is the most important part. This was super helpful for me. I think most of the people that I talk to about NFTs are either poorly informed or they got caught up in the hype. But this was very helpful. So I'm going to check those out. I highly recommend everybody else does too. We'll put the link in the show notes so people have access to that. And then I guess, give yourself the plug. What else do you have going on besides bullsandapes.com? You said that's what it was, right?
Bullsandapes.com. Yeah, it's pretty in depth. One of the couple of things that we've done a little differently than some other projects. I mentioned the VC deal flow, which is very unique. Not a lot of projects are doing that kind of utility within their community. The other thing that we did is we built out our story behind the Bulls and Apes, like why the Bulls, why the Apes. And there's a creative character, there's some tension. We've got about an hour worth of narrated storyboard animation that tells the story of the Bulls and Apes, which, I've got to tell you, there's kids who are like this, there's adults who are like this, and people are really into it. It's fun. It's a fun aspect that we did. The other thing that we've got coming out, we're in play testing right now with our own physical card game. So a trading card game with the Bulls and Apes character. It's Magic the Gathering style card game. So we're really pushing. Last year was our first year in business. It was all about setting the foundation, getting a core community established. And this year is about expansion. And so we are expanding on the IP, on the brand, and trying to make it as fun as possible. Every single one of us remembers back to when we collected something. We collected baseball cards or comic books or Pokemon, or my girls collect their LOL dolls and all this, right? We've all collected something as a child. And I think NFTs are one of those ways where you could start tapping into the kid inside you, and it feels fun again, but it's got an adult aspect to it.
Yeah, I really like that. It sounds like you guys are creating a strong brand story that can relate to like a pretty broad demographic, but creates like a lot of buy-in, a lot of like emotional and physical buy-in, which is really cool to hear. Anthony, man, thank you for teaching us about NFTs today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
I know a lot more about them. I'm not nearly as confused. I have ideas for how I can use them in my business. So this was super helpful. Thank you again for coming on and talking to us. It's been great.
Great, thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in. We'll see y'all next week.